Deploying a Rails app shouldn't feel like spinning plates on a unicycle. But if you've wrestled with flaky CI pipelines, broken SSH keys, or a staging server that mysteriously stops working, then you know exactly what I mean. In this video, I'll show you how I use Capistrano inside a Docker container to deploy Rails apps. No CI setup, no SSH agent nightmares, no Ruby version mismatches. This is an updated workflow that I've refined over dozens of deployments. It's simpler, it's faster, and it works from any machine. So if you've ever had a deploy break at the worst time, not that there's a good time for it to break, or you're tired of fighting your tools, this video might save you a lot of time and a little bit of your sanity. Hey everybody, I'm Phil Smy, Real Life Rails, zonmaster.com, magnetmanager.com, and I've always used Capistrano to deploy Rails apps. It's rock solid, it's simple, and it lets me deploy right over top of the existing code base. Zero downtime, no fuss. But when I started to do more consulting work, I saw what other teams were doing. And honestly, kind of blew my mind, not in a good way. Their workflows involved full CI pipelines just to deploy. They'd spin up new cloud instances, wait for everything to boot, migrate, do health checks, then switch traffic over, tear down the old server. It was like launching the friggin' space shuttle just to push code. Meanwhile, I had this tiny Docker setup that could deploy safely, consistently, and didn't require any of that ceremony. No CI jobs. No ephemeral servers. Just Capistrano doing what it's good at. Quick, in-place deploys that didn't break staging or production. So I took that setup, put it inside Docker, and made it shareable. And now, even contractors can deploy safely without touching their local Ruby setup or breaking a sweat. To save you time, I've bundled everything, Dockerfile, deploy script, Capistrano config, into a free starter kit. You can download it via the link in the description below and use it on your own projects today. All right, so let me walk you through setting all of this up. You don't need to memorize any of this or copy it all down because you can get it for free from me on the website, just links in the description. So what we're going to do is, we've got Rails 802 here, so we're going to do Rails new, not ship, God, skip. Okay. Now, the only thing I have done earlier, things I prepared earlier, like a cooking show, is I have prepared a server for us to deploy to. Now, I have a whole bunch of server scripts that set up a Ubuntu 22 LTS server with RBN, Ruby, MySQL, Memcache, Nginx, all that stuff like that. So that's all set up. So we have that already. But it doesn't have anything like SSH keys or anything else like that on it. So what we're going to do first is, so this is a straight out of the box Rails 8. It comes with a Dockerfile, and that's to run Docker in production, which that's not what we're doing here. What I need to do, now we've got the README, so we're going to just close these out, I think. And we need to put these in our, we need to put these in our gem file. So let's go to the gem file. And We just bundle that. Let's go into Phil's app. So we're going to bundle. And then we need to do a cap install. And that will make all the things, deploys and productions and cap files and everything. And then we're just going to replace it all. So first thing up is, well, let's take a look at the Dockerfile. Because before we get to Capistrano, we need to have this thing built. So I'm going to give you this Dockerfile. What it's going to do is start with you can start with anything, to be honest. This is the Ruby that you're going to run on your server. I'm going to do 342. And all we need to do is copy this file here. Copy. Go over to our Phil's app. And we're going to paste it in. And so this sets up the Ruby, does an update on the server, installs things that we need, build essential, curl, Node.js, yarn, and all the rest of that stuff. Makes the SSH directory for root. Don't really need that, but and sets our working directory to be app. Oh yes, it does need to do that, because remember, this is the Docker file. And it copies that stuff, gemfile and gemfile lock, into the root of the Docker container. Installs a bundler 2419, runs a bundler config, runs a bundler install, and then copies everything from the root of where we are to the root of the Docker file. And it copies over this thing called deploy sh and puts that into this part in the Docker container so that we can easily run it. And then when we run, it runs this deploy. So let's take a look. We're going to copy that over. Let's paste this thing in here. So it's good to know that this is all self-contained. If you were to clone this repository, you don't need to install Rubies and everything like that. You probably would have, but you wouldn't need to install anything to deploy this. You can just download the repo, run this, and if you have the right keys on your machine, it will deploy it. So the deploy script that it runs does a bunch of stuff, makes sure you have the environment variable set. Again, it does this setting up the SSH directories. And the way that I've done it is that inside of my app, I have a server key and a GitHub key. And we can do that right now. So we can copy from my own SSH. I think I set that up with this. So we're going to make that to be our server key. And this is the key you use to SSH onto your server. And then the GitHub, no, I didn't really do that. The ID RSA is my GitHub key that I use to connect with GitHub. And so that has copied these keys here. I'm not going to click on them so you guys can see them, but here, GitHub key, server key are now in the root of my app. And before you freak out, what we're going to do is edit git ignore. And so we want to put server key and GitHub key. So they won't get checked in, because we are going to check this into a repo. So that has been done. Where are we? We've got those set up. Everything is set up. And then on the server, it's pretty confusing with Docker, because you have to think you've got a container, and container's going to go up and do things. So it's creating its own known hosts to SSH. It creates a little config file so that it knows how to SSH, and then it tests that, and then it runs bundle exec cap deploy stage, which is production, deploy, just like normal. So what do we do now? The other things we need to do, of course, are the Capistrano files. So we've got a cap file. We can get rid of all this stuff and just use the cap file that I've got, which does a setup, includes a setup and deploy and the Git and bundler and Rails and RBN from passenger and yarn, which is everything we need. It sets the RBN type to be user and RBN Ruby of 3.42, because we look here, our Ruby version when we installed, because it puts that Ruby version file in there. So we do Ruby -v, you see it's 3.42. So when we built the app, it puts in the version that we did the build with, or when we generate, I should say, the Rails app. So that's all done. So let's take a look at deploy RB. And we could copy all of this. We're going to leave the lock because, versions change. We need to get our GitHub repo, but everything else we can copy. So let's just go to the end of this file, paste everything in. I'll have to get my repo in a second here. So we're setting where we're deploying it to. My app name, this does not have any bearing. It can be whatever you want it to be. The user, that is important. That's the user that you can SSH onto your server as. And it sets the SSH options so that we use that server key to SSH onto the server and do things. Set some passenger roles, and these are just things that I've left over from ZonMaster, sorry. And then how to do the config the bundler locally, and so on. And then we need to symlink an RBEnv vars file, and that's how RBEnv gets its environment variables, kind of like .env when we're doing development or whatever, but that's how RBEnv gets it. And we copy one of those into the current path. And then this is kind of the magic stuff, really. One of the issues is always SSH keys. So we need to SSH down from GitHub, our repo. And so what we're going to do is take that GitHub key that we've got on our machine and in our Docker container, and we're going to put that onto the remote server, set up all the permissions, create an SSH config file, go out and grab our stuff, do our deployment, and then when we're all done, we're going to clean up the GitHub key. So there we go. And we do a lot of that using this git environment variable of the git ss. What is the git ssh command? And finally, production. We don't really need anything in there. User deploy, the branch is main, and I'm going to leave all that stuff in there for your edification. And we want to find, what's your server? I set up a new server on DigitalOcean. If you want DigitalOcean, get a discount. There's a link in my show or description of this video. So that's my server. So I can set the IP here. We're gonna go as deploy, and we're gonna set the roles. This is a one server Rails app, so we're just gonna do everything on there. So that's all of it. Now let's take a look at building. So I'm going to just go back because, if you guys had to watch me type this, you would go insane. So it's going to do a Docker build, no cache. We're going to call the Docker container my-app-deploy. We're going to use that Dockerfile that we have in our thing as the Dockerfile. And our target is here where we are. Here where we are. And so this is going out and building a Docker container. Now I just realized the one thing I need to do before this will work, of course, is set up a GitHub repo. Okay. Let's see what happens. Let's go to GitHub. And let's create a new repo. My deploy. And we can make it private. And let's do a little better than that. My Rails deploy. Create the repo. And now, so this finished building the Dockerfile, but it doesn't matter because I'm going to have to do it again. Git status. You've got all these things. We're going to git add dot. Obviously, I'm not doing anything efficiently here. Git commit -m. Doing this for the video. So that's all committed. So what we can do now is add the remote origin, set our main branch, and push that up to origin. And now that's in here. So that's it. We're all checked in. If we want to check, there's my Rails app here that I just did. So I can go to deploy, set my Git URL. That's it. Done. Now we could, I'm going to build it, okay, again, with the right Git URL. I find that when you change these Capistrano files, you have to rebuild the container. It's better just to rebuild it all the time anyway. It's going to go off, and it's building full Rails app inside of the Docker container. Done. Now we can go back. The pain if you had to watch me type this command. So we're going to say docker run with interactive, and we're going to pass in these things. What's the server key? It's that file we've got. What's the GitHub key? It's that file we've got. What's the working directory? It's the app directory. And what's our host? That's my host. What stage, what user, and my app deploy. And this should go off and deploy, copying the deploy key, permanently adding the thing, installing the GitHub key, checking out the GitHub wrapper. It did a GitHub check and it can get the head. That's fine. Checks the directories, makes sure there's everything in there. Clones down. Creates a release directory. Sets a current revision. Symlinks all these directories that we need so that we don't have to rebuild everything every time, like bundler and all of that. Config bundler. Does a bundle install, which it will have to do because this is the first time we're deploying to this server. I have a sneaking suspicion this isn't going to work, but it's a minor thing, he says. Doing a bundle install. It's taking its sweet time about that. I'll speed this up. There we go. All done. Yarn install. Pre-compiling all of our assets. And that didn't work because of this. Where are you? Missing secret key base. So what we're going to do is in this RBN vars file that I talked about, that is where the environment variables are, we're going to put a secret key base. Fills app 123 secret key base, and let's do all that again. Good thing is that it's done the bundle already, so it shouldn't have to redo the bundle. Check the link directory. Create the release. Current revision. Symlink to directories. Oh. This might work, but I shouldn't have said that because now that I've said that, it's not going to work. So it's going to config the bundler install, yarn install, deploy the assets. Holy cannoli. It's done the application compile. It's done a DB migrate, which of course doesn't have anything to do. Similarly, everything is there. It is done. We have deployed our app. If we go and look on the server, this is the current directory. You can take a look. There's all of our stuff. This is our app. And I put in a bunch of, in my config files, I put a bunch of things, so I can say console. And this is going to run our app on our server, and there we are. Done. We actually deployed. Don't forget that you can get all these files in the link below. So that's it. That's the full workflow I use to deploy every Rails app I run, from tiny projects to full production systems. No CI pipelines to configure. No SSH agents to wrangle. No server juggling. Just a Docker container, a deploy script, and a command that works every time. You can download the full starter kit right now. It's free. The link is in the description. And if your Rails app is struggling with messy deploys, flaky staging environments, or scary server errors, check out my Rails Rescue Sprint. It's designed to fix exactly this kind of problem and infrastructure pain. Thanks for watching, and if this saved you even a little bit of hassle, hit that like button and subscribe for more nerdy but useful Rails stuff. Or maybe buy the mug or a t-shirt if you want to support what I do here. Links in the description. Thanks for watching. See you next time.